Hey, I'm Brad.
I'm Rach.
The Kids Are in Bed episode. Drew Barrymore. We're going to be on national television.
What?
You know, it's really unfortunate. I'm starting off being a Debbie Downer.
Oh, geez.
It's really unfortunate because of COVID, we didn't get to travel to the studio and give Drew a hug and shake her hand.
Very true.
And get into they call it, is it the green room?
Yeah, be treated like a star.
You get snacks and champagne.
Yeah.
This is all in my head.
That's what happens, I'm sure, backstage. Yeah. And there's somebody there that will be fluffing my hair and putting highlighter on my cheeks.
And if you're on the Ellen show, they come and prank you. And
yeah,
stuff.
Exactly.
They send a masseuse in that's not really a masseuse, or something like that.
I'm sure that would have happened.
Ah, dang it.
But COVID, unfortunately, ruined the plans.
Look at us and our first world problems.
I know.
So anyway, was it their talent manager that reached out to us?
I think so. Had found our YouTube channel. Actually, one of my connections recommended us to the talent manager.
Yes, and the talent manager sent us an email.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, do you guys have any interest in being, she didn't say what the name of the show was, in being on a TV show and talking about one of these topics. And there was 5 different topics of us to look at to see if any of them related to us. Mm-hmm. And immediately when we saw, how did they phrase it?
Well, I didn't even look at the list. You did and picked and was like, this one.
Yeah.
And then you told me later.
I'm trying to think of what exactly, basically it was good cop, bad cop.
Do you have one parent that is more good cop, one more bad cop?
One that's always disciplinary and one that's always relaxed.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
our
relationship.
Life. It's funny though.
I get yelled at about that all the time.
Daily. Multiple times a day. It was kind of interesting, that initial email too, because we've had a handful of these emails that didn't pan out.
It almost looks a little spammy as well.
It does. Mm-hmm. We have been on one show that was not in primetime network television, but we've also had a couple of interviews and processes that did not just didn't go very far. So it's also we were taking this with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we actually have an air date is miraculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so anyway, one of the topics that they suggested or asked if we could relate to was good cop, bad cop. We obviously picked that one. And
so the first step was I think it's talent acquisition manager or whatever is her title. Mm-hmm. She called us and did a phone interview.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So she called and she's like, oh, hey, can you give some specific examples about you being a good cop and Rachel being a bad cop? And so I did. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, this is great. Drew's going to love this.
Drew?
Yeah.
On first name basis with Drew.
She probably will. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay, well, I'll email you with the next steps. Or I'm going to pitch this to Drew and then I'll get back to you, email you the next steps.
Yeah.
So the next day.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, Drew's really into this. And she gave us some scenarios of what. So I gave some examples to her on the phone of how I'm a good cop and Rachel's the bad cop. And so she asked us to film some clips showing that exact process.
Mm-hmm. So we kind of didn't make up these scenarios because they're actual scenarios that happen.
Yeah, it was real life.
Frequently, but we sort of had to act them out to have footage to send them to put with our story as they presented our case or whatever. And so that part was pretty fun too, because we got to play the role of good cop, bad cop, and act out a scene from our perspective. And the scenes that we chose were Brad always gives the kids, and I'm gonna use all-inclusive words like always and never because that's what it feels like. Mm-hmm. Brad always gives the kids junk food snacks when I always give them something healthy like fruit or peanut butter, nut butter, or something that I prepare for them. He always gives them something out of a package. So we kind of played that scenario where you were handing them fruit snacks and
right. And then the next one was I let the kids play with their tablets, mm-hmm. and Rachel never does. Mm-hmm. She'll do an activity or whatever.
Try to.
Right.
Yeah, Brad's very lenient with tablet time.
And then I think the final one was when we sit down for dinner, mm-hmm. and the kids are just being crazy, and I'm at that point tired of yelling, so Rachel does all the yelling at the dinner table.
Yeah, and yelling, I would say disciplining. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sometimes the voice is a little bit raised.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to get the kids to sit at the table and not get up 1,000 times and run around the house while we're all trying to eat dinner.
Exactly.
That was the discipline, I think, always falls on me. So that was like the role that we were playing in this.
So
TV
it's
clip.
it's like a minute and a half that, not like our highlight reel, but like the reel that they'll show on the Drew Barrymore show, kind of explaining where, the look into our relationship.
Then they had us fill out kind of a questionnaire. It was circumstantial questions and like, what would you do? Or how would you handle this? And one of them was, what age can your kids have social media? What age? It was just a lot of questions that were really, really hard to answer with like one specific number. It was all kind of like, well, it depends.
And then like, is it important for you to be friends with your child?
Stuff like that. And then ultimately, we did a Zoom live interview with Drew Barrymore and her friend, who happens to be a parenting expert.
Who happens to be a psychologist.
Psychologist and parenting expert. And so we sat and chatted with both Drew and the parenting psychologist, got Drew's perspective, which her and her ex-husband now had kind of that dynamic and ended up ultimately divorcing over it. And so she had her perspective on it. And then the parenting psychologist had advice for us. And it was really cool.
Yeah, it was great. Just having this conversation and kind of having an outside view witness our relationship.
Yeah.
Like, it was basically a counseling session.
It was a lot like a counseling session. And the whole point of it was to try to find a middle ground. So they were very diplomatic, saying like, neither of you are 100% right. We need to find a compromise, and we need to figure out what's going to be a deal breaker and what you can bend on, and like how we can make this work for both of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was really a fun experience.
It was. And I think it was like necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I've changed after that.
I do too. I do too. Yeah, I feel like I am more, I'll try to recognize more things that I can let go versus things that matter the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I definitely give the kids a lot less Z-bars.
Do you really?
Yeah. I didn't feel like I gave them that many before, but I definitely don't give them any anymore.
At least it's Z-bars and not like Snickers.
Yeah, it's not like we have...
Of their junk food, it's like pretty good junk food.
Right, exactly.
Except for the fruit snacks. There's absolutely nothing good at a fruit snack. But man, they love them.
Yeah.
And so do I.
They're great.
The fun thing is now with the RV, we have all of those snacks in the RV because they're way more convenient than trying to package up chopped up fruit, which I actually did one time and it molded overnight.
Yeah, you can't do that.
No, that's frustrating. So fruit snacks all the way in the RV. Yeah.
So that was us on the Drew Barrymore Show. The air date is December 3rd. It's on CBS, so be on the lookout for it. If you follow us at all on social media, I'm sure we'll be posting about it on Instagram, Facebook, on YouTube, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely an honor, so we are very proud to share that.
Yeah.
And hopefully it helps like other parents. I know we're not the only ones with the good cop, bad cop dynamic. And
No, that's for darn sure.
I can see how it could really put a strain on a relationship, especially with young kids.
Oh, totally.
And 3 of them.
So hopefully you watch the segment and let us know what you think about it.
Yeah. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already and hit the thumbs up button. It helps us in the mysterious YouTube algorithm.
And we'll see you on the next video.
Bye.
Bye.